The frontier settlement of Red Willow had a rule that everyone understood without ever writing it down. Never go into the northern woods after sunset. That was where the wild half-orc lived. Her name was Kara. Some said she was a monster born from two worlds. Others claimed she had torn a man apart with her bare hands. Children whispered that she could hear a horse breathing from half a mile away and track a person through stone. Nobody knew which stories were true. But everyone feared her. Kara lived alone in an abandoned hunting cabin beyond the pine-covered hills. She rarely came near Red Willow, and when she did, people hurried inside their homes. Storekeepers locked their doors. Mothers pulled their children away from the windows. Kara had learned long ago not to expect kindness from humans. She was tall, broad-shouldered, and stronger than any ordinary woman. Her green-gray skin made her unmistakable, while two small tusks curved from beneath her upper lip. Her black hair was usually tied loosely behind her head, and old scars crossed her arms and shoulders. But beneath the frightening appearance was a woman who had spent most of her life simply trying to survive. She had been rejected by humans because she was half-orc. The orcs had rejected her because she was half-human. So Kara had chosen the wilderness. There, at least, the trees never asked what she was. One cold evening, Apache horseman Elias was returning to his ranch when his horse suddenly stopped. Elias looked toward the northern ridge. Something was wrong. He heard a faint sound coming from the ravine below. A groan. He dismounted and carefully followed the sound. At the bottom of the ravine, he found Kara. She was sitting against a rock, one hand pressed against her injured side. Beside her lay her horse, motionless after being attacked by a mountain cat. Kara immediately noticed Elias. Her eyes hardened. "Leave," she growled. Elias stopped. His hand rested near his rifle, but he didn't draw it. "I can see you're hurt. I said leave." Elias studied her for a moment. Then he slowly removed his canteen and placed it on the ground between them. "You're going to need this." Kara stared at the water. Nobody had ever offered her anything without demanding something in return. "You're not afraid of me?" she asked. Elias gave a quiet shrug. "I've met men more dangerous than you." For the first time, Kara didn't know what to say. She reached for the canteen. Elias turned away while she drank, giving her the dignity of privacy. That small gesture affected her more than he could have known. Afterward, Elias examined her wound from a distance. "You need shelter tonight. I have a cabin. You won't make it there." Kara looked toward the darkening sky. She knew he was right. Elias extended his hand. "Come to my ranch. You can leave in the morning." Kara stared at his hand suspiciously. Then she looked at his face. There was no hatred there. No disgust. No fear. Just an offer. Slowly, Kara accepted. Elias helped her climb onto his spare horse. As they rode toward the distant lights of his ranch, Kara kept wondering why this human had chosen to help the woman everyone else called a monster. She didn't know it yet, but that simple decision would change both their lives. And before long, Elias would place something far more valuable than a canteen into Kara's hands. He would place the reins of his most trusted horse, and, with them, the first real trust anyone had ever given her. By sunrise, Kara had already decided she would leave. Elias's ranch was quiet beneath the pale morning sky. Smoke rose from the chimney, horses moved inside the corral, and the smell of coffee drifted through the cold air. Kara stood near the barn, watching the settlement in the distance. She had slept beneath Elias's roof, eaten his food, and accepted his help. That was already too much. She didn't want to become another problem for him. Elias stepped out of the barn carrying 2 saddles. "You're leaving," he said. Kara glanced at him. "Yes. I figured." He didn't try to stop her. Instead, he walked toward the corral. Inside stood several horses, but one immediately caught Kara's attention. A magnificent chestnut stallion stood apart from the others. His muscles were powerful, his mane dark, and a white mark ran down the center of his face. Kara recognized him. That horse doesn't like strangers. Elias smiled faintly. Neither do you. She almost smiled. Almost. What is his name? Thunder. The horse watched Kara carefully. Elias opened the gate. Come here. Kara frowned. To the horse. To the horse. She stepped inside cautiously. Thunder immediately pinned his ears back. Kara stopped. I told you. Elias leaned against the fence. Don't force him. Kara slowly lowered her hand. Thunder watched her. She waited. Seconds passed. Then she whispered, I'm not going to hurt you. The horse stepped closer. Elias's expression changed. He had spent years training Thunder, yet the stallion rarely trusted anyone quickly. Kara touched his muzzle. Thunder breathed against her palm. For the first time that morning, Kara smiled. Elias walked toward the saddle rack and picked up a set of reins. Then he did something Kara never expected. He placed them in her hands. Take him. Kara stared at the reins. What? Ride him. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because you need to learn that not every creature you meet is waiting to hurt you. Kara looked at Thunder. Then back at Elias. You trust me with him? Elias nodded. The statement struck deeper than any compliment could have. Kara had spent her entire life being told what she could not have. She couldn't enter towns. She couldn't touch other people's horses. She couldn't sit at their tables. She couldn't be trusted. And now this human was giving her control of his finest horse. Kara swallowed hard. I could steal him. You could. I could disappear into the mountains. You could. You could never find me. Elias smiled. I know. Then why? His answer was simple. Because somebody has to be the first person to trust you. Kara looked away quickly. She didn't want him to see the emotion in her eyes. She climbed onto Thunder. The stallion shifted beneath her, but Kara held the reins gently. Easy, she whispered. Thunder calmed. Elias mounted his own horse. Ready? Kara looked at him. No. Elias laughed softly. Good. Neither am I. They rode toward the mountains. For the first time in years, Kara wasn't running from someone. She was riding beside someone. But neither of them noticed the three men watching from the ridge. They had followed Elias from Red Willow. And when they saw Kara riding Thunder, one of them whispered. The monster has found herself a human. The others laughed. None of them understood what they were witnessing. They were not watching a monster gain a horse. They were watching a woman discover trust. And soon, that trust would be tested in a way neither Kara nor Elias could imagine. The morning sun climbed over the mountains as Kara and Elias followed the narrow trail beyond the ranch. For Kara, the ride felt strangely peaceful. She had spent years moving through the wilderness alone, but this was different. She wasn't fleeing danger. She wasn't hunting for food. She wasn't hiding from people. She was simply riding. Thunder moved beneath her with steady confidence. At first, Kara kept the reins tight. Elias noticed. You're pulling too hard. Kara glanced at him. He'll run away. He won't. How do you know? Because you're asking him instead of forcing him. Kara loosened the reins slightly. Thunder's ears relaxed. A few moments later, the stallion began walking more smoothly. Kara looked down at him with surprise. I've never ridden a horse like this. He knows when someone trusts him. She looked toward Elias. And if I don't? Then he knows that too. Kara was quiet. Those words reminded her of herself. Perhaps that was why she understood thunder so quickly. They continued into the pine forest. The trees grew thicker, and the trail narrowed between large gray rocks. Birds scattered from the branches as the riders passed. Eventually, Elias stopped near a clear mountain stream. "We'll rest here." Kara dismounted. She walked Thunder toward the water, allowing him to drink. Elias built a small fire and prepared food. For several minutes, neither spoke. Then Kara finally asked, "Why did you help me?" Elias looked up. "I already told you. You said somebody had to trust me." "Yes. But why you?" Elias stared into the fire. "My father used to say that a person's reputation isn't always the truth." Kara sat across from him. "What happened to him?" "He was killed by men who believed they knew what kind of man he was." Kara lowered her eyes. "So you understand. Maybe more than you think." The silence that followed was comfortable. Then Kara quietly told him about her childhood. She had never truly belonged anywhere. Human settlements called her dangerous. Orc clans called her weak. When she was young, both sides had used her differences as an excuse to push her away. Eventually, she stopped trying to belong. "I learned something," Kara said. "What?" "If everyone thinks you're a monster long enough, eventually you stop trying to prove them wrong." Elias studied her. "You don't believe you're a monster?" "No." "Good." Kara looked at him. "Why?" "Because monsters don't worry about whether they're hurting people." For the first time, Kara had no answer. They resumed their journey shortly afterward. But as they crossed a rocky ridge, Kara suddenly raised her hand. Elias stopped immediately. "What is it?" She looked toward the ground. "Tracks." He dismounted. 3 sets of boot prints crossed the trail. Fresh ones. Kara crouched beside them. "Men." "How many?" 3. "Maybe 4. Elias studied the direction. "They're heading toward Red Willow." Kara's expression hardened. "Raiders?" "Maybe." Then she noticed something else. Horse tracks. Dozens of them. Kara stood. "They're stealing horses." Elias looked toward the distant settlement. Red Willow had barely enough horses to survive the winter. If someone stole them, several families could lose everything. "We need to warn them." Kara climbed onto Thunder. Elias mounted beside her. But before they could leave, a rifle shot echoed through the mountains. The bullet struck a tree inches from Elias. Kara immediately grabbed his arm and pulled him down. Another shot cracked through the forest. "They found us," Elias whispered. Kara's eyes scanned the ridge. 3 armed men appeared between the trees. One shouted, "Give us the horses." Elias reached for his rifle. But Kara stopped him. "Wait." She pointed toward a narrow trail behind the attackers. "There are more of them." Elias looked carefully. She was right. A larger group was moving through the trees. Kara tightened her grip on the reins. "We're surrounded." Elias looked at her. Kara looked back. For the first time, neither of them was afraid to stand beside the other. Then Elias whispered, "We've got one way out." Kara smiled faintly. "Then let's ride." Thunder reared beneath her. And together, the human and the half-orc charged into the wilderness. Thunder thundered down the mountain trail as Kara and Elias raced through the trees. Behind them, the raiders shouted and fired their rifles, but the thick forest protected the 2 riders. Kara leaned low over Thunder's neck, guiding him between rocks and pine roots with remarkable skill. "Left!" Elias shouted. Kara pulled the reins. Thunder turned sharply. A bullet struck the tree behind them. Kara glanced over her shoulder. They're still following. Keep moving. They reached the ridge above Red Willow just before sunset. Below them, smoke rose into the sky. Kara stopped thunder. Her face changed. The settlement was burning. Elias stared in disbelief. They attacked already. Several buildings were surrounded by flames. Horses ran loose through the streets while frightened settlers rushed from their homes. Kara's hands tightened around the reins. They're stealing the horses. Elias looked at her. We need to warn them. No. Kara pointed toward the center of town. Look. 3 riders were dragging a wagon through the main street. Inside were several children. Elias immediately reached for his rifle. We're going down. Kara nodded. Together, they charged toward the settlement. As they entered the main street, frightened townspeople saw Kara riding beside Elias. A woman screamed. The half-orc. Another man raised his rifle. She brought them here. Kara froze for half a second. After everything that had happened, they still believed she was responsible. Elias stepped in front of her. Lower your weapons. She attacked us, someone shouted. No, Elias said. She came to save you. Before anyone could respond, a burning beam collapsed from a nearby building. A little boy was trapped beneath the wooden debris. His mother screamed. Kara didn't hesitate. She jumped from thunder and ran directly into the smoke. Kara. The fire was spreading quickly. Kara lifted the heavy beam with both hands. Her muscles strained. The boy crawled free. Go. Kara shouted. He ran into his mother's arms. Kara turned just as another section of the roof collapsed. Elias rode forward and pulled her away. They rolled across the dirt as burning pieces crashed behind them. You could have died. Elias shouted. Kara looked at him. So could the boy. Elias had no answer. Across the street, the townspeople stared. The woman who had screamed when Kara arrived now watched her standing in the smoke, covered in ash, protecting their children. Then the raiders attacked again. A group of armed men rode through the eastern gate. Elias raised his rifle. Kara climbed back onto Thunder. Stay behind me, Elias said. Kara gave him a look. I think you've forgotten who you're talking to. Then she kicked Thunder forward. She rode directly toward the raiders. The horse moved like lightning. Kara swung a wooden staff she'd grabbed from the ground, knocking one rider from his saddle. Elias fired carefully from behind her, forcing another attacker to retreat. The townspeople slowly joined the fight. Men grabbed rifles. Women carried water to extinguish the fires. Even those who had feared Kara began defending their homes beside her. The raiders finally realized they had lost their advantage. Their leader shouted for retreat. But Kara noticed something. They weren't running toward the mountains. They were heading toward the old canyon. They're taking prisoners, she shouted. Elias followed her gaze. Several settlers were being forced onto wagons. We can't let them escape. Kara turned Thunder toward the fleeing raiders. Elias followed. Behind them, the people of Red Willow watched in silence. For years, they had called Kara a monster. Now they watched that same woman ride into danger to save them. And for the first time, someone in the crowd whispered something different. She isn't a monster. She saved that boy. She saved us. Kara didn't hear them. She was already racing toward the canyon. Elias rode beside her. Neither knew what waited ahead. But the raiders had made one mistake. They had chosen to run into the mountains with a woman who knew every trail, every ravine, and every hidden passage. And Kara had no intention of letting them escape. The canyon grew darker as Kara and Elias followed the raiders into the mountains. The sun was disappearing behind the cliffs, leaving only narrow strips of orange light across the rocky walls. Ahead, the raiders' wagon tracks disappeared between two massive stone formations. Kara slowed thunder. They went through there. Elias studied the canyon entrance. It looks too quiet. It is. Kara dismounted and crouched beside the trail. She touched the dirt. 6 horses. Elias looked at her. 6. 6 riders. But only 4 sets of tracks continue forward. What happened to the other 2? Kara pointed toward a narrow ledge above them. They climbed. Elias immediately understood. Ambush. Kara nodded. She looked toward the wagon tracks. The prisoners are still ahead. We need another way in. Kara smiled faintly. I know one. She led Elias around the canyon and through a hidden passage between the rocks. The narrow trail eventually opened above the raiders' camp. Below them, several prisoners sat beside a wagon while armed men stood guard. The raider leader paced beside a fire. We leave before dawn, he said. The horses will fetch enough money to keep us fed for months. Kara's expression hardened. Elias whispered, there are too many. Kara pointed toward the eastern cliff. There is a rope bridge. Elias looked at her. You want to cross that? No. She pointed farther down. There is another path. They quietly moved through the darkness. But as Kara stepped around a rock, a loose stone rolled beneath her boot. The sound echoed through the canyon. Every raider looked up. Who's there? Elias raised his rifle. Now. The canyon exploded into chaos. Gunfire echoed between the cliffs. Kara charged downhill. She reached the prisoners first and cut their ropes. Run. The settlers scattered toward the hidden passage. Elias covered them from above. But the raider leader saw Kara. You. He raised his rifle. Elias shouted. Kara. She turned. The rifle fired. Kara threw herself sideways. The bullet struck her shoulder. She stumbled but remained standing. Elias fired back, forcing the raider behind a rock. Kara pressed her hand against her wound. Blood covered her fingers. Elias rushed toward her. Are you hurt badly? I've been hurt worse. That doesn't mean you're fine. He tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped her shoulder. Kara looked at him. You should be helping the prisoners. They're safe. No, she said. They're not. She pointed toward the far end of the canyon. 2 raiders had captured 3 settlers who had fallen behind. Kara stood. Elias grabbed her arm. You're bleeding. So are they. She pulled free. Then she ran. Kara reached the settlers just as the raiders tried to drag them toward the cliffs. She attacked without hesitation. One man swung a rifle at her. Kara blocked it and knocked him to the ground. The second raider drew a knife. Elias fired, forcing him to drop it. Together, they freed the remaining prisoners. The raider leader suddenly appeared behind Kara. He raised his weapon. Elias saw him first. But Kara moved faster. She grabbed the leader's arm and twisted the rifle away. The 2 struggled near the edge of the canyon. Kara! Elias shouted. The ground beneath them cracked. Kara slipped. For one terrifying moment, she hung over the cliff. Elias threw himself forward and caught her wrist. Hold on. Kara looked down at the darkness below. You should let me go. Absolutely not. You'll fall too. I don't care. Elias pulled with everything he had. Kara grabbed the rock with her free hand. Slowly, painfully, he dragged her back onto solid ground. They lay there breathing heavily. Kara stared at him. Why did you do that? Elias looked at her. Because I gave you the reins. She frowned. What does that have to do with this? I trusted you with my horse. He smiled. I'm not going to stop trusting you now. For the first time, Kara's tough expression broke completely. She looked away, hiding tears. Behind them, the rescued settlers began making their way home. The raiders were defeated. The horses were recovered. And the people of Red Willow had finally seen Kara for who she truly was. Not a monster. Not a weapon. But a woman willing to risk everything for people who had once feared her. As dawn approached, Kara climbed onto Thunder. Elias mounted beside her. Together, they rode back toward the valley. This time, Kara wasn't riding toward a place where she didn't belong. She was riding toward a home she had never expected to find. When Kara and Elias returned to Red Willow, the sun was rising over the eastern hills. The settlement looked different in the morning light. The burned buildings still stood as blackened skeletons, and smoke drifted above the rooftops. Several fences had been destroyed, and the streets were covered with hoofprints. But the people were alive. The children had been rescued. The stolen horses had been recovered. And the raiders were gone. Kara rode slowly through the center of town on Thunder. For once, nobody screamed. Nobody reached for a rifle. Nobody told their children to hide. Instead, the people simply watched her. A little boy stepped out from behind his mother. It was the same child Kara had pulled from the burning building. He walked toward her. Kara immediately became nervous. She was accustomed to frightened faces, not grateful ones. The boy stopped beside Thunder and looked up. "Thank you," he whispered. Kara didn't know how to respond. She looked at Elias. He smiled. Kara slowly dismounted and crouched in front of the boy. "You're welcome." The boy smiled and ran back to his mother. Then another person approached. It was the town blacksmith, a large man who had once been one of Kara's loudest critics. He removed his hat. "I was wrong about you." Kara said nothing. The man continued. "We all were." One by one, others began coming forward. Some apologized. Some simply nodded. Others offered food, blankets, and supplies. Kara accepted almost none of it. She didn't know how to receive kindness yet. But she remembered every face. That evening, Elias returned to his ranch with Kara. The ranch was quiet. The horses grazed peacefully in the pasture. Kara stood beside Thunder. She ran a hand along his neck. "I suppose I should leave tomorrow." Elias looked at her. "Why? People are beginning to accept me. That's a bad thing." "No." She looked toward the mountains. "It means I don't have to stay here anymore." Elias walked toward the barn. Kara followed. Inside, he stopped beside the saddle rack. He removed Thunder's reins. Then he turned toward her. "These belong to you." Kara stared at him. "I can't take your horse." "You're not taking him." Elias placed the reins in her hands. "He's choosing you." Kara looked toward Thunder. The stallion gave a quiet snort. She laughed softly. "You planned this." "Maybe." Kara shook her head. "I don't understand you." "You don't have to." She held the reins tightly. For years, Kara had believed freedom meant being alone. She thought survival meant never needing anyone. She thought trust was something other people could afford. But Elias had shown her something different. Trust wasn't weakness. It was a choice. And sometimes, giving someone the reins didn't mean surrendering control. It meant believing they wouldn't abuse it. Kara looked at him. "You really trusted me from the beginning?" Elias nodded. "I trusted the woman I met in that ravine." Kara's eyes filled with tears. "You barely knew me." "I knew enough." She looked down at the reins. No one has ever done this for me. Elias smiled. Then someone finally did. Months passed. Red Willow slowly rebuilt itself. Kara became a familiar sight around town. Children followed her whenever she visited. Ranchers asked her to help train difficult horses. Travelers began hearing stories about the half-orc woman who had saved a frontier settlement. But Kara never cared about the stories. She cared about the people. And every morning, she rode Thunder across the hills. Sometimes Elias rode beside her. Sometimes she rode alone. But she was never truly alone anymore. One evening, they stopped on a high ridge overlooking Red Willow. The setting sun painted the valley gold. Kara held the reins loosely. Elias looked at her. Still afraid they'll call you a monster? Kara smiled. No. Why not? She looked toward the town below. Because now I know who I am. Elias nodded. Kara turned Thunder toward the setting sun. The horse began walking. Elias followed. Behind them was the wilderness where Kara had once hidden from the world. Ahead was a town that had finally learned to see her. And in Kara's hands were the reins, not only of a powerful horse, but of a new life she had once believed she would never have. The woman everyone had feared was no longer running from the world. She was finally riding toward home.